Today, on the Everett Ellison Show, we're going to talk about the 4th of July and what it means to America and how this is the greatest country in the world and why it's the greatest country in the world. Today, on the Everett Ellison Show. All right, let's get this thing started. Yo, we're going to talk about the 4th of July. You know why it's such a beautiful and sanctified holiday in this nation and why we all need to celebrate it. But first, I want to talk about a Supreme Court case that just came down the pike. It was called Mahmoud versus Taylor. Y'all might have heard about this case. It's not, you probably heard about the case, but not by name. So Mahmoud versus Taylor. And the Supreme Court ruled in our favor. It's very simple. In Silver Spring, Maryland, where I used to reside, public school system and the liberals up there are crazy as hell. Low down crazy. And Silver Spring is a very, very mixed, ethnically mixed place. I mean, whenever you go there, when I go to the store, it'd be like I'd be in Babel, man. People just different languages, cultures. And well, everybody would go to the public educational system, and of course, liberals would see this as an opportunity to screw people's children out. That's what they do. They're not going to treat them right. They're going to screw them up. Usually when you have yourself this type of environment, what you want to try to do is treat everybody right. Teach ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, science, history. Oh, not these liberals. They saw this as an opportunity to indoctrinate these children. So they started teaching LGBTQ. And they started making these children read books like My Daddy's Roommate and I Got Two Mommies and, you know, I Can Be What I Want to Be and I Can Be a Boy. It's all kind of ignorant stuff. And these parents found out about it. And they looked at the law in Maryland and said, hey, the law said that children could opt out of these things. Now, let me tell you how this happened. In the early 70s, when they started putting these sex education classes in schools, a lot of parents started getting mad about this, saying, we don't want you teaching our children anything about sex. That's for me and the father to do. Y'all stay out of it. So the schools and the parents compromised. The schools said, we're going to put it in the curriculum, but you can opt out. So if you don't want your child learning this stuff, we won't teach it. And the parents in the school said, okay, bet. The parents that want their children to learn it, they'll be fine. The parents that don't want their children to learn it, that's cool also. So, bet. So when it came down to this LGBTQ stuff, the parents kind of pulled the law out and said that this sex education, we don't want you teaching our children this. We want to opt out of this. And the school district said, they got us. What can we do? Because we want to indoctrinate these children. So these liberals, they might be evil, but they ain't dumb. They got lawyers and all kind of stuff. So they said, I tell you what we're going to do. Got a plan. What's the plan? Well, they can opt out of sex education classes. So we're not going to put this literature in sex education. We're going to put this stuff in English literature. And they got to read the books because it's literature. They said, we got them now. So they started putting these books about sex education in literature classes, and the children had to read them in literature. And the parents said, no, we opted out. School district said, y'all opted out, but you can only opt out of this stuff if it's in biology class. This isn't biology, player. This is literature. This is like Mark Twain, and this is like Shakespeare, and they always talking about sex in these stories, so what you got a problem with this for? Parents went to school board said, shut up, we're going to teach it. They went to the state court said, shut up, we're going to teach it. They tried to get a law passed in Maryland to block it. Maryland said, hell no, we're going to teach it. So they went all to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court came back and said, no, 6-3. These parents don't want their children learning this stuff. You got to let them opt out. And the parents win. And now the left is going crazy because they now know that in every state, the parents can opt out of their children reading this nasty crap. in public education. But this is what I want to tell y'all. Don't get too happy. Don't get too happy. They coming at you again from a whole nother way that you're not going to see. Believe me right now, these leftists are sitting around right now trying to figure out a way to get LGBTQ in front of your children. Now, why would they want to do that? They're trying to get an internet bill passed right now to keep this pornography away from children. Supreme Court just ruled in Texas that there was a Texas bill that kept porn away from children. You had to show that you were over 18 in order to visit porn sites. Guess who came against it? The Democrats. Told you they were perverts. Supreme Court ruled for the parents again. Yes, it is constitutional to make somebody show that they're over 18 before they can visit a porn site. Perverts. Why do they want to put this stuff in front of children? The Congress is trying to pass an internet law now that's going to keep porn away from children. Guess who's against it? LGBTQ community. You know why? Because they know that's when they get they know that's when they get you when you're young. They want to have you already indoctrinated and turned out. They understand that if they can get a child to have sex with a same-sex person, that the first person they have sex with, that's probably who they're going to stay with for the rest of their lives. So they want to indoctrinate them and they want to turn them out young. You want to confuse them while they're young. You can't have the Boy Scouts anymore because they messed that up because they brought a bunch of homosexual men in the hit. Men can't have any safe spaces now because boys used to have sleepovers because we always understood that boys acted a certain way around boys. Can't even do that anymore. Women can't be in their bathrooms because men can come in there. You go to colleges and universities now, you got co-ed dorms, and when we went to school, when we were going through college, the girls had dorms, boys had dorms. Why would dorms? Why would you put boys and girls in the same dorms? Bunch of perverts. And now you got this culture, this hookup culture. They want these young girls to get pregnant so they can have abortions, so they can keep feeding the pharmaceutical industry to use these fetuses. That's how they get paid. And they just want to commit murder because they are a death cult. And these perverts like P. Diddy and the rest of them want to also be able to have an array of young men they can always grab from and pull from. And they've got your children pegged for it. So as I said before, what Donald Trump did, the most important thing Donald Trump did, was putting those 3 justices on the Supreme Court. If Hillary Clinton had been in the presidency between 2016 and 2020, Lord have mercy, the court would be so different. And America would be so different. Because right now they would tell you that your children cannot opt out of sex education classes. They would be against school choice. They would be saying that government had to fund Planned Parenthood. They would be allowing illegals to come over here and just have the borders completely opened up. This country would not exist any longer. So hail the Supreme Court for standing strong. Hail Donald Trump for putting these conservatives on the court. And God bless the parents up in Silver Spring, Maryland, for standing up to the machine and to the monster and saying, not my child. These were Muslim parents that did it too. These weren't Christian parents because Christians turn over too easy. These were Muslim parents. God bless you. And I'm glad that you won. All right. I want you to check out this documentary that I'm in. It's called the MLK Project. It's done by my good friend. And Chad put together a masterpiece. What Chad is talking about here, He's talking about how the myth of Martin Luther King Jr. has led Black America and America astray. How the civil rights movement, there was no virtue in it, and how it did much more harm to Black people. He put it together meticulously in this very, very finely done documentary. It's a masterpiece, and I'm in it. And here's some of the clips from the MLK Project with me in it. Let me tell you something, man. If you don't want me to eat in your store or eat in your restaurant, just let me know.
Because of this system, they would have to eat up front and we would have to eat in the back. We can't even communicate. We have some dear white friends here who are with us, and we want to eat together.
I'm not going to be begging to give you my money.
I'm far more concerned about the good, the decent people who would quietly pack their bags and move away. And this, it seems to me, is more damaging to our cause and more dangerous to the total cause of integration.
I have an answer for you.
Under Martin King's tutelage, you saw this pathetic proliferation of Black intellectuals coming out, speaking in such a way as if their dignity and self-worth as men depends upon how many white people let Black people into their spaces.
The people who will say, I'm with you, I am for you, but what about property values, and the man's right to run his business?
Their objective was to use the arm of the federal government to force even private-owned companies to serve and to hire who they, the civil rights activists, said they should serve and hire.
We have asked for upgrading and employment in the stores so that you have Negro clerks or Negro salesmen and women.
I believe that we should call upon the federal government, and I'm happy that the federal government is now working.
The college student is destined to be leaders of their race.
Because they went to the universities where they received Marxist sociology training, these Black intellectuals just assumed the position of speaking on behalf of Black Americans at large.
Segregation to the average Negro means being held back. He's looking for progress. He wants to move forward in the American mainstream. Segregation holds him back.
All of the training they received was in the vein of activism and the soft sciences. None of them have ever run a business before. None of them actually knew what it was like to work with your hands. And so they completely disregarded the fact that Blacks actually owned businesses, that Blacks were actually entrepreneurial.
Thousands of businesses owned and operated by Negroes. It would be difficult to name a business or profession in which the Negro has failed to find opportunity.
This is what they did. I was born in the Jim Crow South. My people were part of that. There are towns like that all the way through the South where Black people run these towns, where they have their own schools, where they have their own sheriffs and their own police departments, their own municipalities. And there were safe places for Black people to go. So Chad is an amazing young man, y'all. Check out this documentary. Share it with people. Tell people about it. And we're going to change the world. All right. We're going to pivot. And we're going to talk about the 4th of July. Yeah, I know that Black people in America want to try to feel some type of way sometimes about the 4th of July, and they want to try to say, well, we ain't got nothing to do with the 4th of July. We were all slaves during 4th of July. That is a lie. That is a lie about the 4th of July. The 4th of July, unlike Juneteenth, was a day that Americans declared their freedom from Great Britain and decided to exercise it. It was the day that we issued the Declaration of Independence, telling the world why we were free and why we were taking back our freedom that we had loaned to the King of Great Britain, King George III. Thomas Jefferson wrote, and Thomas Jefferson was a philosopher. He said, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Now, the founding fathers could have said all white men. Why didn't they? Because they knew that wasn't true. They knew that slavery was wrong. But slavery was political. It wasn't ecclesiastical, and it wasn't philosophically correct. It was a political issue at the time. It was also a human issue. We want to talk about slavery. Well, the founding fathers said, we were slaves. Slaves to King George. And what did we do? At the end of the Declaration of Independence, they said, with divine providence as their guide and their protection, they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. We go to war. And it wasn't so much they said we're willing to die for our freedom, they said we're willing to kill you for it also. And they did. Thousands of men died, black and white, in the American Revolution. And they killed thousands of British until the British quit at Yorktown. It was a day that black and white men and women declared their freedom. And black people said, well, we weren't included in the 4th of July. Dude, there were white people that were not included in the 4th of July. Some of them were called loyalists. Guess what they said? That we're fighting for the British. At the end of the American Revolution, George Washington said, take all of these loyalists with you. We don't want them amongst us. Some of them got on the ships and went back to Great Britain. Others went up to Canada. Some went down to the West Indies. But the United States of America kicked them all out. And the black people that fought with the British sent them to Canada or took them back to Great Britain with them. They stayed with the British. There were black people, free black men, like the 1st Rhode Island that fought with George Washington, and free black men. And you know what they said? We side with George Washington and the July the 4th Declaration of Independence, that we declare ourselves to be free. This was not something that you wanted, that you were included in. This was something that you volunteered for and signed up for. During the American Revolution, if you were a slave and you said, hey man, I'm going to fight for the freedom of America, you could join George Washington's army and fight and you'd be free. There were some that said, I don't want no parts of this, I'm staying on the plantation. You made a choice to be a slave. You see that? They don't tell you that part of it, do they? Yeah, this is something you can sign up for. Like freedom is always something you can sign up for, y'all. You sign up for freedom, and then you also sign up for slavery. The 4th of July, the Declaration of Independence was written. And they said, who agrees with us? Come over here. The black people that did were free. The black people that didn't remained on the plantation. Same with the white folks. The white people who agreed and black folks stayed with King George. Submissive. The king being their sovereign. And the people that sided with the United States of America on the 4th of July said, no, God is our sovereign. Our freedom was given to us by him, is irrevocable, non-transferable, and unsellable. We weren't included. Nobody was included. It was an idea and it was a document that was held up and said, who wants to join? Who's signing up? Who agrees? If you believe that your freedom comes from God, if you believe that it's irrevocable, non-transferable, unsellable, come with us. If you do not believe this, stay with Great Britain and stay with King George. The ones that came with us, recognize it. Even today, that choice still remains with all of us. Who believes that your freedom comes from God? Who believes that government cannot give you your freedom? Who believes the government doesn't have a right to even touch your freedom? You people that believe that your freedom comes from God, you're over here with us on the conservative side. You that believe that your freedom is irrevocable, non-transferable, and unsellable, you're here with us on the conservative side, on the Christian side that said, God is our sovereign. He gave us our freedom. And you that believe otherwise, you're over there with the Democrats. You believe that your freedom comes from government, that government can decide whether or not you live or die, that government can decide your gender, that government can control the weather, that government decides whether or not you have a right to defend yourself, that government decides the type of education that your children get. The government decides whether or not you can discipline your children. Yeah, the government decides whether or not you're a man or whether you are a woman. It decides whether or not your child can live or die. It decides whether or not a man can go into the bathroom and watch your wife and your daughter urinate, or whether he can play sports with your daughter, whether he can share a locker room with your daughter. And you have no say-so in the matter. Over on this side, we say, no, God determines all of that for us. And this is what my Bible says. Yeah, you decide. As Moses said, who's on the Lord's side? Step to me. And this is why the majority of the black people at the bottom of every socioeconomic statistic in America, because they turn to government, because all their lives, even from slavery, our whole history has been based upon the white Democrat being in charge. Even when it comes down to black people celebrating their freedom, who do they give it to? Some white general that comes out on a horse and tells them that they're free. And they are, let negotiate, we's free, Lord, we's free. Government. But on the 4th of July, these immortal words that the whole world heard and were amazed changed the world forever. We hold these truths to be self-evident truths, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. God-given rights. And that government is instituted by man to help secure these rights. And that whenever government decides not to do that, it's our job to abolish that government and replace it with one that will. And the whole world said, oh my goodness, let's see if this is true. How do you know if it's true? Is God going to allow Great Britain to destroy this nation that just put all their faith in him? Because they are the most powerful army in the history of the world. And we beat them. And Americans that believe this concept do well. Americans that do not believe it, this is where the deaths of despair come from. This is why the United States of America is dying. People between the ages of 18 and 45, leading cause of death, suicide. Then it's drug abuse. And then it's murder. Man without Jesus Christ is suicidal. The black community is at the bottom of every socioeconomic statistic in America because they follow behind this demented, evil party. Party of perverts, liars, psychopaths, anti-Christian bigots, now thugs, hoes, and rappers. A party that elevates and pushes a hip-hop culture that talks about hating women, hating men, N-word, B-word, promiscuous sex, how many Negroes you done shot, how much money you got. They elevate it. Sick culture, a sick party. But we know who we are. I know who I am. My name is Everett Ellison. I'm an heir of Jesus Christ. I'm a child of God. I cannot be oppressed. I cannot be a victim. And when you talk about white privilege, I say, you're right. It is a privilege to be white, but it's also a privilege to be black. It's a privilege to be a Christian, but it's really a privilege to be a citizen of the greatest nation in the world, the United States of America. Happy 4th of July. And let us have another 5 million 4th of July. You know why? Because I'm here to wake you up. And I hope I did you some good today. Happy 4th. God bless you. God bless America. And keep on watching me on the Vince Everett Ellison Show. All right, friends, Vince Everett Ellison is here. I want you to go to my website. And on my website, you're going to see a lot of great stuff, man. You're going to see that we got t-shirts, we got caps, you got my books, my documentaries, you got all kinds of stuff on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Go there. We're dropping new t-shirts. We're dropping new merchandise. My new book, The End of Tolerance, is there. The End of Tolerance. Make sure you get it. Make it #1. If you got my first 3, get The End of Tolerance. It's just as good. And it's telling us we have to end our tolerance with these leftists, these Democrats. We can no longer allow them to sexually groom our children. We can no longer allow them to castrate little boys and call them little girls, run God out of the public square, take away our guns, take away our sovereignty. No longer allow it. So go on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. That is VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Hit merchandise. You'll see the t-shirts. You'll see the caps. You'll see the books. You'll see the documentaries. You'll see it all. And let's keep this ball rolling. God bless you.